The Mythos grinders are actually super packed filled of technology, including gravimetric dosing, heated chambers here, burr alignment down to the microns, and it delivers perfect grind every single time, nice and quick. They're workhorses. They are absolutely the #1 grinder for commercial use, in my opinion, but they could also be for your home as well. So let's check it out. G'day mate, my name's Ryan, your coffee coach. Today I want to look at the Mythos grinders to see whether you might consider putting them in your home, or maybe we can all get Victoria Arduino to make them for your home. But also, if you're a cafe or you're thinking about owning a cafe and you're considering these grinders or you hadn't even thought about them, this is going to cover some of the commercial aspects as well, because I'm a big fan of them. I'm not sponsored, I'm not paid for in any way associated with Victoria Arduino. I'm just a fan of the brand, and I'd like to see them more pushed into homes as well with grinders like this. So that's why I'm doing this review, because there aren't that many videos on this Mythos grinder series on YouTube, and I just love the brand. As you can see, I've got a couple more behind me. I used them over the last 6 years now. Started with the Mythos ones. Fantastic workhorse machines. Now, I need to tell you that I was loaned this machine along with the other machine as well, but all the other Mythos grinders I bought outright. And in fact, I'm buying these grinders because I've had them on the bar for now over a month and I love them so much. So I'm actually going to purchase both the grinders that they've loaned to me. So just so you know that these are my own thoughts and they haven't been swayed by the generosity of Victoria Arduino. I'm going to tell you what I like and I'm going to tell you what I dislike about it. Yeah, and I've noticed a couple of comments saying that I'm overly enthusiastic or positive about machines. Well, that's because I'm showing you the machines that I like, and I don't have time to review machines that I don't like, and it just seems like a waste of time. So most of the machines that I review, I love, and I do get excited, and I am overly positive. However, I can tell you that I'm 100% genuine about my thoughts and about my reviews on these machines, regardless of what you may think. There's nothing going on behind the scenes. I'm not paid to do these ones, and if I was, I would tell you straight out the gates. One of the biggest features they had on it was the heated chamber here. So what this does is actually heats the burrs and creates a chamber that's sort of got a stable environment, rather than you dialing in on a cold grinder when you first get into work and then midway through your shift when you're getting absolutely pumped. That's when your grinder stuffs up and you've got to spend half an hour trying to adjust it on the fly. It creates a stable environment, the same temperature that heats your burrs as the use of the burrs heats up, so they get hotter. That stays the same. Because the coffee sits in there, it kind of heats it to that 30-degree temperature and allows you to just get a consistent grind every time. And definitely living in sunny Queensland, Australia, has its quirks when it comes to different grinders, like say the Mazzas, which just do not work up here with the humidity. All the Mythos grinders are hands down the most beautiful grinders on the marketplace. If you want to disagree with me and say some of the other grinders are much better looking, that's fine, but I dare you to try and argue that these are not just the most nice design, beautiful aesthetic out there. I looked at every single commercial grinder when I was going through all my research before I was updating. Even when I updated them from the original Mythos ones to these My Gs and the My ones, I just could not get past the fact that they just line up nicely beside each other. They come in a white. These actually are the only grinders as well that have a 3-kilo hopper. This is a 1.5, but you get a 3-kilo one. It just means you're having to fill it up less, which is so much better. The original Mythos ones, they actually have a white shine. Now they've gone to a matte white, which I think is just luck. The other thing that they've done now is they've moved the fans from the side to the back, which just makes it so much better. If you're in a commercial environment, you've got them side by side. You can't put them close together because the fans are sucking air out of the other one, which just overheats your motors. Now putting them on the back means you can push them nice and tight, bench space for you to work with, and they don't overheat. And the other big feature that's still part of it, and they've updated it, is this clump crusher. So unlike a lot of the other grinders that just shoot straight out from the hopper or from the chute here, they actually designed a clump crusher that sits up inside this chute and it breaks up the coffee as it pushes through. And they've redesigned that, and I'll go into that in a little bit as well because they've updated that. And that clump crusher just gives you the fluffiest grinds ever, and you don't need to really worry about WDT or any puck prep, because in a commercial environment you just don't have the time to do all of that. Mythos kind of got lost when they released their second Mythos which looked like a transformer. It was, I don't know who designed that thing, because I couldn't buy one just on what it looked like. It is a monstrosity. And not only that, it had a lot of problems, I believe, that didn't go well in the marketplace, and people sort of forgot about the Mythos until now. The Mythos G, there's a full series of the gravimetric ones and the regular ones, and then they reinvented the Mythos 1 called the My 1. These three I've been using on the bar here for over a month now and testing them out in different scenarios with different coffees, different settings, pushing the boundaries, changing the parameters, and I have to say, I still love them, and I still will use the Victoria Arduino Mythos grinders over every other grinder out there. And those grinders are workhorses. The original ones that I had on the bar that I've just updated, one of them had done over 500,000 shots and was still going strong. It had started to slow down. The motor had started to overheat occasionally, making this chamber quite hot here to touch and even bleeding out into the dial. But it was still going well, still making great coffee, and if it wasn't for this new updated technology, I'd probably still be using it anyway. But with this new series of grinder, and there's 5 in total, there's the My 1, which is a redesigned version of the Mythos 1. There's your MYGs, which come in both a 75 and 85 mil burr, and then your MY without the Gs, which is without the gravimetric, in a 75 and 85 mil burr as well. On the surface, they don't look that different, but they have been completely rethunk from ground up, with the internals and the externals being completely overhauled. So whilst it looks very similar, it's actually very different inside. And they have been going fantastic. And everybody has said, did you do something different with the coffee this month? And I have to say, yes, I changed the grinders. So the first thing you'll notice with the Mythos My 1s and the My's is the size of the screen. You've got a touch display, it keeps the 3 buttons here. They are just quick access for your different grind doses. So you can have your 22.5, which is our one. You could have a 5, or you could have a 20, you could have a 10, you could have something else. So it's touch screen, so if you want to change it, you can change it on the fly, you can enter all of the menus. You can actually have up here the burr setting, so you can see here exactly the microns that the burrs are set for. And what's really unique about Mythos in general is that they have not only their nice little grind adjuster here, which I think is really nicely done, they actually have a 0 point setting, so you can actually see how much you're shifted throughout the day. You set it to the 0 point at the beginning when you've dialed it in, and then you can adjust it from there. With this new one, they have the ability to show you the microns now, which I think is better. It's not going to give you any benefits to the coffee, but understanding what sizes are rather than an arbitrary 1 or 3, and if you're in a commercial setting where people are coming in and getting their coffee ground, and they've come from another place, another roastery, and they say, oh yeah, I got it ground at 11, and you go, what that means? Nothing. Even if it was on a EK43, they're all calibrated differently. The numbers are meaningless, and so having an understanding of the microns will make it much easier to adjust down the track, because let's say that this coffee really shone at 190 microns. Well, then you can set that, and that can become the template for adjusting it and refining it for that particular day or week or whatever. And the beauty of this machine is that it actually will store your recipes in there. So you can say, okay, yeah, we really found that the coffee was the best at 21 grams in, and you set your dose out. You can save that, and then the next time you get that coffee in, you can bring it back up and start using that again as the template for refining your coffee. The other benefit, the upgrade, is that they've updated the chambers so that you can actually set the temperature desired on there. So I just keep mine at 30 degrees, and this is something that's experimental because I don't know what difference it would make to put it up to 60 or to 55 degrees, but it can go all the way up to 60 degrees Celsius. So now let's talk about the gravimetric part, because that's probably what you're most excited about. Certainly what I was most excited about. The gravimetric allows you to do away with your scales so that you don't have to always dose in anymore. And that just takes a lot out of every day. When you're running a commercial bar, there's just no way to do all of the amount of attention to detail that you would do if you were making one coffee at home. Weighing in your beans, weighing out your grind, WDT, RDT, pre-tam, and then put it in, then weigh out your extraction. There's just not enough time to do all of that. So taking one of those major parts out, which slows you down, which is the weighing of your beans and weighing of the grind, just takes away so much pain, because these actually have an integrated scale sitting in the back here. So when you pop your portafilter on top, it actually tears the portafilter, then doses exactly the dose that you have set here to within about 1.1 or 0.2 of a gram. It is very precise, and it actually has a bit of AI. Well, I'm not sure, I haven't confirmed if it's artificial intelligence or not. Since that word's being banded around all over the place, I'm going to use it. It actually has some form of intelligence to recognize that it overshot or maybe undershot your dose, and it will adjust the time on the next shot to get closer again. So you actually pop it in, you say 22.5 grams, which is what our dose is here in the cafe. Then it'll dose out, and if it might shoot to 22.7 or 22.8 or something like that, it'll do a little error. It'll show you what the dose was that actually came out, and you can decide to use it or not. And it will do a little calibration inside to readjust it to make sure that the next shot gets closer to that 22.5. And it's surprisingly quick and surprisingly accurate. And the other thing that I love about gravimetrics, because a lot of people don't know this, is that whenever you change your grind size, if you're having a timed dose, you have to change your timer. This is something that I had to explain to all my baristas, even though they were experienced from other places coming here. They had no idea that when you grind finer, it actually slows down the time to grind the same amount of coffee. And when you grind coarser, it speeds up the time to grind that same dose. When you are adjusting your grind and you have a timer, you have to adjust the time. And on the old Mythos ones, that's a very laborsome job because A, you don't know exactly what time will take to grind that little bit more or a little bit less of coffee. So you're sort of just guessing, and you've got 1/10 of a second, so you can go 7.21 and 7.22, and you can keep hitting that up, and hopefully, you know, after a bunch of playing around, you'll get it right. With the gravimetric, you don't have to worry about the timer at all. You just have to worry about the fineness of your grind, and that's all you focus on, and the rest is taken care of, which is just brilliant. And I think this is the way, see what I did there? This is the way of the future, because I just think having to eliminate weighing out and weighing in, and imagine we've got coffee machines with integrated scales as well coming out, so you're not going to have to worry so much about this extra couple of steps of weighing your beans, weighing your grind out, weighing your extraction out. It's going to be taken care of by this. However, and this is the caveat to all gravimetrics, I don't reckon it's ready for commercial use just yet. There's no slight on the Victoria Arduino because this is a brilliant machine and I love the way that this works. However, I made the mistake of putting the gravimetric one on my main blend, which does 60 to 80 kilos a week, pumps through the coffees, and this guy just couldn't keep up with it. It was doing all sorts of things. One of the things that you cannot do when you're using a gravimetric thing is touch it. So you can't settle the coffee. If it spills out over the sides, it will recognize the spillage and it will still grind enough so that you always get that 22.5 dose in your portafilter. However, you're going to get waste because it's spilling out over the sides, so you can't settle it enough. And unfortunately, our dose is just a little bit too high for these machines, so the sides don't go up quite enough to capture that. If I was running a 20-gram dose, it'd be better. I just find when I do a dose, because I have such a light, smooth coffee, when I do a dose down low, and especially you have a single shot in an 8-ounce cup, it's just a little bit too weak. So we run it more, get a little bit more intensity, just to cut through the milk on all types of our coffee, and the ratios is probably the most important part. Now the other thing is that sometimes you'll slam the portafilter in and you might be, that was not that rough, like I'm not smashing it in, but I'm not being super gentle. We got to the point where it was so gentle, like you'd put it in like that and it would still say KO, knocked out, can't work, and we'd have to start again. Or you'd put it in there, it'd do a little bit, then it would stop. We did all the firmware updates, we did all the adjustments, it works perfectly now, but it still takes a little bit too long for a main grinder. I'm gonna grind it now. So when you pop it in, you have to wait 3 seconds, and 3 seconds in a mad rush is a lifetime. So just having that second there, then you got to wait. You can't settle it, so you have to just be really gentle when you're settling it. But the grind is fantastic. I mean, look how fluffy that is. And that's all to do with this clump crusher, which is up in there, which I'll go into in a second. But you're getting absolutely just fluffy grinds. And so when we move this down from our main blend to our single origin, and we also put one on the decaf grinder, that's where they really shine. Because now we can just focus on the dose, getting our best grind, and making espresso shots or long blacks or decaf coffee just tastes so good because we don't have to worry about weighing out every single dose. And you can turn off the scales if you want to. So it's pretty easy. You just go into the menu, you can turn off the scales straight away. What I could possibly do is have this on the main blend and then turn it off during the mad rush, turning it back on again after it settles down. That is an option. However, we decided to go with the My 1, which is fantastic, amazing anyway, in its own right, even without the gravimetric settings. This is basically a hopper for a single doser, but you can get a dosing kit for it as well. So you can actually put in a single dose hopper. It sort of fits in the same shape because it has to. It's got a sensor. If you take the hopper out, stops you from being accidentally cutting off your fingers. There's also a filter kit, which you can include in there as well. So why would you want this in your home? Because A, it's pretty bulky. B, they're not cheap. I think they're about 3,000 US, maybe 5,000 Australian, but you'd probably buy it through a commercial wholesaler. And that is not a cheap grinder, especially when you've got a whole bunch of the other grinders out there, which are a lot cheaper. If you could afford it, and I'm hoping that Victoria Arduino might see this video and say, yeah, we've got a home grinder coming soon, because if they made this into a home grinder, they would absolutely smash the market because it's so easy to use and you don't have to worry about all the fluff and everything like that. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to clean this as well, because aside from all the touchscreen and all the settings and the tech, the gravimetric stuff, the ease of use to clean this machine, I'll show you how easy it is absolutely fantastic. So firstly, but before we do that, I've got to make a coffee. There's no point in wasting this coffee grinds, so let's make a coffee. Just gorgeous, just beautiful. So what I'm drinking today is a Christmas blend, just working on. Absolutely delicious. It's like Christmas pudding with a bit of custard in there, a bit of cinnamon spice as well. Absolutely lovely. If you want to, you can check out my website, coffeebeansdelivered.com. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, make sure that you do that. And now I'm going to show you how easy it is to clean this. So first thing you want to do is close off the hopper, take the hopper out. Once you've got the first round of dose up, you do actually have to get all of the beans out of there. So you do want to try and scrape as many out as you can. Now, because this is obviously not designed to hold cups and stuff like that, I've got a little purge button here. That just makes it go continuously. There you go. Now we've got it completely emptied. I can show you how easy it is to take these off. All you need is a screwdriver, and they've actually updated this. So now there's only 2. There used to be 4 here, and it was actually a lot harder to get them off. Make sure you turn it off first. Unplug the little thing here, which keeps the chamber hot. And these just slide out. Take the hopper off. Comes out, there's probably a few beans around the place. So there you go, you've got access to all the grinds there, and you can get into the burrs. These burrs themselves are actually really good. And you can put on the SSP red burrs as well and get in there, clean all of that out. This actually hasn't been cleaned in, I would say, a week or 2 weeks. So something I'll have to say to the baristas just to remember to clean it so I don't embarrass myself on film. Then you can also take off the clump crusher. Now, unlike the Mythos 1, the clump crusher was really hard to take off. You had tiny little screws, like you needed a tiny screwdriver, and you had this faceplate here, which wasn't easy to align at all. It wouldn't sit in. Now you've got this great big chamber here that actually just slots into there. One of the things I don't love about this design of this gravimetric is how much the coffee can get caught in there. And yes, you can pull it all off, but then you might have to calibrate the thing again, and that's just a bit painful. So yeah, I wish they would just have created some sort of like closed case that you could then pop off perhaps. That would have been nice. And also getting into the back one here, it needs a special bolt and nut, and to unscrew those to pull that full back berth forward, and then you can get in behind there as well. But that's something that you'd only need to do maybe like 3 or 4 times a year, as opposed to cleaning out the grinds every week. Now, putting it back on, and the clump crusher is amazing because you can actually see here, this is the new prototype, I think. Here you can see it nicely well. So it's actually a metal clump crusher, and I love this design. You do have to put it in the right way, so you have to make sure you get it the right way. That goes up. Now, with this metal one, that's a new design, and I think it might be still in prototype phase, but it's beautiful. Now you can just get up in here, clean all of that grind out there, and then easy to put on, pop it back up in there. This is a lot easier to do than the old design, which you had to hold it in place. This just sits in place now. You don't even really have to hold it, getting these fiddly little things. So I'll just pop that back on. Now the difference between the burr sizes isn't about the speed. With the 85 mil, I thought I was going to get like half the amount of time. And when you're making hundreds of coffees an hour, you need that extra second or two. It still takes about 7 seconds to grind. That's just the nature of it. What the 85 does is give more surface area for your beans. So they crushed a lot faster, means they have less contact time with the heated burrs. It stops them from cooking or overheating and tasting bitter. So you get a much cleaner profile, much better tasting coffee. And the power of the motor just means that it's got that extra energy to bin those burrs. Yeah, I honestly don't think I found a lot of taste difference between the 75s and the 85s. So it's really up to you if you decide to go 75s. If you're putting multiple in a cafe, then 75s will do the job. You won't worry about that. You don't need that. You won't get any extra time anyway. It's just probably about longevity and that cleanliness and that taste profile. Not the end of the world. But there you go. That's my review on the Mythos Grinders, the MY series. I love them, and I am no way affiliated with Victoria Arduino. I'm not sponsored. I'm not paid for. With these machines, there's a lot to love. I wouldn't recommend if you're a busy cafe and like a high volume cafe doing plus 50 kgs a week to get the Gravimetric one on your main grinder. I'd go for the Mythos one. For your single origin one, or if you're a startup cafe or you're just wanting something really good with a Gravimetric doser on it, then this is fantastic. I absolutely adore this machine, and I can't wait to see someone be using this in their home setup. Or Victoria Arduino, if you're watching this, let's make one for the home. Anyway, I hope you like these videos. I'm Ride, your coffee coach, and as always, enjoy your brew.